Did man continue in that estate wherein God at first created him? No. While the extrusion of the transient passengers from a state of being, sort of like an eternal idea, into a state of physical manifestation, gave them individuality and gave everyone involved a higher quality of life in relation to creation overall, it also opened the door to desire-based imbalances. The law of free will and the law of equilibrium dictate that all in 3D and 4D must be able to define their own relationship with STS and STO and be able to discern the difference between the two. Orion STS had been busy creating life on their planets as well. They believed that they could become God by co-opting the previously described disbursement of intelligent infinity into serving them and absorbing it unto themselves. To this end, they engineered various bodies made to operate within a narrow range, allowed to interact with certain quantity of emanations of God, but with the locks being more sacrosanct. Once a being absorbed a certain level of knowledge and understanding, they would hit the ceiling of their design function and evolve no further. The evolutionary psychology and basic biological drives of these specimens were made to be myopic and selfish, with a focus on physical gain and materiality. As a result, these species would gather resources and create weak and dysfunctional social structures in predictable ways, which allowed them to be harvested later when needed. The ultimate plan is to place themselves at the apex of a vast web of obedient minions, enforcing a rigid caste system of subjugated species who serve as a mechanism to extract creative energy from the cosmos and redirect the flow to them. Theoretically, if this structure can be imposed on all of creation, they will gain omniscience and in fact become indistinguishable from Prime Creator 7D, making their will the absolute law governing all realms. This is the context in which the current human form as we understand it was created. Orion STS created this modified human genome on a planet known as Dane Care, and one of the subjugated races in their union, the Reptoids or Drachmanoids, colloquially referred to as the Lizzies, scouring the galaxy looking for a group of souls willing to jump in. The Lizzies gave demonstrations to the human soul group in a bid to convince them that they possessed superior knowledge to that of the Nordics, and that humanity could further accelerate its spiritual evolution by increasing its physicality. This was in fact a half-truth. The Nordics had designed their temple of humanity as a way to interact with the physical reality and experience moral quandaries. The concept of need and suffering and the experience of separation contrasted with the connectedness to spiritual reality of love and abundance. All of these qualities provided a catalyst for one to discover one's individuality and internalize the reason which infuses the STO philosophy, defining one's own relationship to it. But it was a soft physicality that delivered said catalyst in gentle, measured doses. This contrasted with the ethereal state, which only offered these benefits as a result of a tedious study over astronomical timescales. The Orion template increased the parameters of suffering, separation, and the struggle to survive, measured against what is good and right to an extreme degree, such that one was cut off from spiritual realities almost totally and forced to deal with the primacy of the material world and left largely in the dark as to how to transcend it. As an added bonus, the bodies were wired to greatly enhance physical sensate, mainly sexual, and this was presented as a fun way to pass the time. It is true that such a condition offered exponentially more catalyst than the Nordic condition, but the trick was that it offered such a difficult curriculum that only the strongest minds would be able to master it. Most would fall behind in the class, failing test after test, and repeating it over and over for eternity, chasing sex in a vain and ephemeral attempt to overcome the sadness of separation and recreate the communion that existed in the Edenic state. Although it was presented as a great and glorious thing, this condition of endless repetition is actually what was intended by the Orion Union, because it made humanity easy to control, and under extreme suffering, souls could even be shattered into primal matter, liberating the huge amounts of creative energy stored in their organizational structures, which can be used to power their psychic technology. Humans shatter atoms to generate power to run their civilization. 4D STS shatters souls. Focusing only on the positive aspect of the change, 309,000 years ago, the group mind of humanity decided to accept the Lizzie's proposal and jump into the bodies Orion STS had seeded on Earth, giving rise to Homo sapiens and human existence as we know it. Neanderthal was another one of their experiments, which was eventually taken to another planet. In their native state, the Lizzies look like bipedal alligators with some humanoid facial features, giving rise to the legend that humanity was tempted by a wise but insidious serpent who darkened their minds and coarsened their perception.